Good morning. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Alex Gutterman. I guess my official film name is Alexander Palachi Gutterman. I'm a writer-director in the European auteur tradition. That is to say, I work only in my own scripts, and my scripts are literary and philosophical and address what one might call the fundamental questions of our existence. I've got a feature film that's been out since 2017. It's internationally distributed. It's on Amazon Prime, a variety of other platforms, called In Winter, and then we're currently in post-production on a second feature called The Hunter. In Winter deals with our solitude, our loneliness, our disconnection from other human beings, fundamentally, existentially, and then The Hunter deals with this constant struggle or constant project to build or create meaning in our reality in the context of our walking the tightrope over a precipice of nothingness. So Valerie has asked me to make a couple of comments primarily about casting and maybe some thoughts for actors who are entering or working or hoping to work with particular directors. She also mentioned the issue of the distinction between a producer and a director, and in my view, essentially the producer or the producer's team is the team that is responsible for the business logistics of a film project, which business logistics, whether it's anything from food to contracts to locations to legalistics to prop purchase, all that kind of stuff. So all that business stuff is, the function of all that business stuff is to provide the director with the material she or he or they or it needs to create the artwork. So the director is the guide to the artwork. So every director and every team has a different casting process, but for me, I would say some of the aspects of my casting process include that I like to work with groups of people I've worked with before. I like to work with actors with whom I already have relationships, and I like to mix in new talent on every project. So for example, The Hunter has some folks that one would be very familiar with if one had seen In Winter, and then some new talent. I think that's really a wonderful way to go. Our casting process is, the way that I work in casting is slow and organic. It's not this quick thing, come in, do this. It's not what I would call industry. It's not mechanized. It's not automated. It's not mic casting or if you will, factory casting. What I'm really looking for at the core is to see with which candidate or with which actors, with which talent, there is a natural, almost you might say spiritual, emotive, affective relationship between what it is that I'm trying to do with a particular film and what it is they're trying to do as a human being. And what we do in our casting process is our casting process will begin with some pretty reads and conversations. We get to know someone where they are. We ask them for why and in what way would the project as they understand it have meaning to them in the arc of their professional and personal development. And then there's this sort of a slow, almost getting to know as the project and me and the other project leadership connect with the candidates. And there's usually some really important dialogue between me and my casting team, primarily my colleague Nora O'Brien, and then others depending on the project. What I would say is that for me, the casting process is about spiritual fit. To give one or two specific examples, for my recent project, The Hunter, the lead in the film had just returned. The guy we eventually cast as the lead, there were other actors who appeared and who did fantastic work and who could arguably, looking at their resumes, be considered more accomplished and perhaps would be bigger names for the film. But when my team and I began to watch this individual work in the auditions, there was some intangible, there was something going on we couldn't quite describe. And we understood that it would be potentially a risk to us and maybe even to this person to cast him in such a demanding role in the context of his life situation and this and that. And yet at the same time, what I said to Nora was, you know, this may be a risk, but I have a feeling that if we hit the target on this one, the so-called more polished or the so-called more accomplished actors might get us to a 95. This guy could get us to 110, and he did. And then I guess one other situation would be where we had a situation for a woman character, not the lead, but a very important character in the film. And we had three outstanding candidates, three really almost equal for the role, and each had a strong point that, and so what caused us to decide in favor of one of those candidates over another candidate was not anything that had to do with acting or the resume or the reel. It had to do with the conversation with us about where she was in her life and how her life and her growth as a human being, first and foremost, and as a professional, linked to what it was we were trying to accomplish in our inner selves in our film. For her statements on that topic seemed more compelling and felt more authentic than the other two actors, who were excellent, and we picked her, and we're very happy with that. Just in terms of some questions Valerie has asked me here, you know, to me, and every director is different, every casting team is different, so I don't really know to what degree advice will be useful, but sincerity and humility are essential. Also for actors, I strongly suggest the ability, the flexible ability to show, like, oh, if they ask you to do another role, be ready to switch really quickly. And having an interest in that is not false, but a real genuine interest in what the production team is really trying to accomplish with their project, I think is essential. And for me, arrogance and ignorance are the two biggest sins for someone in an audition. Arrogance, we all know what arrogance is, and ignorance would be being ill-prepared, not really having studied the background of the project, not having a really genuine interest in it. I think that's going to be a negative. Valerie also mentioned the question of dress and colors. Since I'm a huge fan of human sincerity, my thought is, come as you are as a human being. I would say don't go over flashy, don't go over formal, unless you are over flashy and over formal, unless they've requested. Another little thing around any of that is a director and a producer generally will respect if you ask a question. For example, hey, is there anything you'd like to see me wear or bring to the audition for busy work? By that I mean, like, is there anything you want me to wear? Would it help if I were to wear a certain type of outfit or a color? And also, is there any prop you want me to bring that would be useful when I'm delivering my audition material? Because as we all know, the richness of an acting performance is expanded by orders of magnitude as we expand our consciousness as an actor into our surroundings, but also into our physical self, including objects that we're dealing with. So for me, I can't speak for another director, but for me, for an actor to ask me that question would help me think a lot about my audition process and would cause me to respect that actor for asking that type of question. So I would encourage that, at least if you're dealing with me. With respect to resumes, you know, I'll look at somebody's resume. It's really nice if it's professional. It's great with the headshots and everything. And it's really nice to see the project. So I would say, really frankly, the only thing that really I would say about a resume is make it clear, make it good. And the more stuff you have on it, the better. You know, I don't know. It helps if you list skills on the side and, you know, different experiences. And I don't have too much to say about resumes. And last but not least, I was asked to speak about advice. And really, okay, this is the one thing I can say to actors, to actors right now. I mean, I got a lot that I say to actors on set. I'm called an actor's director. I absolutely love working with actors, and I love setting up shots. Those are my big joys. But if I had to give one piece of advice, it relates to humility. It has to do with the learning process. And it has to do with risk-taking. So when I talk to actors, generally there are some that are really seriously studying, and I don't just mean intellectually, but in their very souls, They are given to their craft and their art, and they are give evidence in their conversations, in their resumes, but mostly in themselves about their devotion to the process of acting, to becoming an actor and being open to exploring acting in different ways with different directors. They have interesting theoretical insights on different schools of acting. They share experiences around different projects where something happened or didn't happen. They can take a theoretical or concrete remark about performance, whether generally or specifically, and respond with something original, intelligent, and thought through. Not necessarily agreeing with me, but engaging with me. That's key. And that shows you're not dealing with a hobbyist. Reels are obviously quality reels are really, really helpful to see somebody's reel, and it's a quality reel. It shows they care. And there was one other thing that I was going to say, which seems to have escaped me, but that's okay. So the primary piece of advice that I would give is also studying great performances. Studying great performances. To direct, to write, I try to study the greatest cinema, the greatest writing. Study the great performances. The performance that I sort of hold as a benchmark is the lead actor in the Australian film Breaker Morant. Go check that one out. I think that that's what I have for the moment. And no, I'll add this. And one last thing with respect to sort of advice for acting. Consider and dive into the question of what is acting as a spiritual process or path. What is acting, and why am I acting, and what expansion of my consciousness or expansion of our human consciousness is affected by my acting and by acting in general. In our recent work, The Hunter, there are a variety of Zen riddles or Zen koan that are part of the script, and in one of them, one of the riddles or koan runs, "A woman split her soul. Which was the real one?" And we see the question of masks, the question of souls, split selves, occupying and then retreating from selves. For example, in the film Persona, you see it all throughout theater, you see it all throughout film. It is what actors are doing. The question then becomes, what is a self? What is a mask? How does a self or a void or emptiness relate to a mask? And then as Jesus said, be in the world but not of the world, the Zen masters say there should be no traces where you hide, but you should not hide where there are no traces. I believe these two statements are spiritually identical, and I believe they're quite germane to this issue of acting, where we proceed from a void space into a form that we take, what you might want to call a mask. Why? How does this relate to our essential nature, and how does this relate to human freedom? This may seem awfully esoteric and perhaps totally irrelevant to your upcoming audition or your growth as an actor, but I suggest that it may actually be quite relevant, and I invite you to consider. Please feel free to watch my work on Amazon or whatever, wherever you find it. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Thanks, Valerie, for the opportunity.